So we've done a linear charge distribution, charge on a straight rod, uniformly distributed, and we've done a curve, right, an arc length with the charge uniformly distributed. So what's next? A non-uniform charge distribution. So we're going to take the same situation we had in the last problem, a semicircle of charge, but this time we're going to make it non-uniform charge distribution. If we read the problem, we see lambda, the charge density, is equal to a constant times cosine theta. So it's a function of theta. Now, because lambda is a function of theta, we have to be told how theta is measured. We can't define the angle to be 0 at the y-axis or 0 at the x-axis or anywhere else we want it to. It's given to us in the problem, and we can't pick our own angle. In this case, we're told that the angle is measured from the positive x-axis. What does the charge density varying as cosine theta mean? Let's take a look at this for a second. Cosine theta is biggest when theta is 0. And as theta moves away from 0, the cosine function goes down. So the charge density is going to decrease as theta moves away from 0 in both directions. It's symmetric. And it's going to go to 0 at pi over 2 and negative pi over 2. That means most of the charge is going to be around the x-axis here. I'll try to visually show you how the charge is distributed here. Most of the charge is going to be near theta equals 0. And as we move away from theta equals 0, the charge will be less and less. It will be more spread out. Something like that. If we cut 1 meter off near the y-axis up here, there'd be much less charge than if we cut 1 meter out of the rod near the x-axis. Now we do this problem the same way we do all the problems. We're going to pick some little arbitrary chunk. I'm going to pick this little chunk right here. And remember, you don't want to pick a special location like theta equals 0 or theta equals pi over 2. Pick some arbitrary little place, and we'll call that dq. And that is going to produce an electric field at the origin that points away from it because it's a positive charge in this case. And we want to find the contributions, the total contribution from all the dq's on this rod. All the dq's added together, how their contribution is. And that means we need to do vector components. So we treat dq like a point charge. And we say we know the electric field from a point charge is k times the charge over r squared. And so the little tiny amount of electric field that's produced at the origin due to dq is going to be k times the charge over r squared. And we want to find the x and y components. And we're told theta is being measured from the x-axis, so we'll use that. That means that this angle is also theta. And so the x component is going to have a cosine theta in it, and the y component is going to be sine theta. But we don't have to do the y component because we can look at this and we see that this charge distribution is symmetric about the x-axis, which means all the y components are going to cancel out. For every dq I have up here that creates a y component like that, there's an equal one down here creating a y component like that, and the y components will cancel out and the x components will add together. That means that E sub y is 0 by symmetry. But it's good practice to go through and make sure you get 0, so you should do that. I'm going to leave my answer like this. Let's do the x direction. We'll plug in dE is k dq over r squared. And now we want to figure out what dq is. dq is always lambda times our length element, ds. If lambda is constant, like it was in the previous lectures, then we could just plug in the total charge over the total length for lambda. But we can't do that in this case because lambda is not constant. But this is always true. dq is always lambda times ds, but lambda is not always constant. If lambda is not constant, we just plug in the function that's given. So in this case, we would plug in alpha cosine theta for our lambda, and our ds is going to be r d theta. Now we know that we want everything to be in terms of theta. We have a d theta here. We want everything to be in terms of theta. That's what we're going to integrate over. So we want to integrate both sides. The left side becomes e sub x. We'll bring our constants out in front of the integral. We have an r over r squared, which is 1 over r, and r is constant in this case. And we have an integral of cosine squared theta d theta. And the next step is to get our limits of integration correct. Theta is defined from the positive x-axis. So that means that we have some charge up here. When we draw the line from that charge to the origin, theta would be equal to pi over 2. And if theta was over here, the line would make an angle of 0 degrees. And charge down here, it would be negative pi over 2. So our angle varies from negative pi over 2 up through 0 to pi over 2 in order to include all the charge on that rod. Minus pi over 2 to plus pi over 2 are our limits of integration. This is a tricky one. I would look it up on my integral table or formula sheet or back of the book. They often have integrals like this listed. And when I look it up, I get this is my solution. 1/4 times the sine of 2 theta plus theta over 2. That's the solution to the integral of cosine squared theta d theta. And this is evaluated from minus pi over 2 to plus pi over 2. And so we plug those numbers in. The cosine of pi, 2 times pi over 2 is pi. The cosine of pi is 0. And theta over 2 becomes pi over 2 over 2, or pi over 4. And then we have the other limit. And so I got k alpha over r times pi over 2. Remember, the integral gives you the magnitude of the electric field. Let's go back and think about the direction. It's positive charge, so the direction is going to be away from the positive charge, or the minus x hat or minus I hat direction in unit vector notation. So we come down here and we say minus x hat or minus I hat.